Hello there! In this video I'll show you how to replace the spark plugs in a Nissan Micra K11. Welcome to CarSpyTV. Right, this is a quick, simple job that can be done at home with only basic tools. For example, we need a ratchet, a long extension bar that fits the ratchet, a 10mm socket, that's this one here, and a spark plug removal tool, which is essentially a big deep socket. Now, in addition to that, we also need a torque wrench. This one is far more heavy duty than it needs to be, but nonetheless, it'll do. Finally, you may, and I emphasise may, want a spark plug gapping tool. More on that later. This is the engine we're working on today. It's a 1 litre petrol that has 4 spark plugs, each of which is underneath one of these ignition coils. We'll start with one on the left. And to access that spark plug, we need to remove the ignition coil, which is held in place by that bolt. Now the bolt can be removed with the 10mm socket and the ratchet, so let's have a go at that. It's coming out nice and easily. There we are, and we'll pop that somewhere safe so it doesn't get lost. And now the coil pack itself can simply be lifted out of position. And now the coil pack's been removed and stored just up here. We can peer down the hole and see the top of the spark plug. There it is. Next, we need to remove the 10mm socket from the end of the extension bar, just like that, and replace it with the spark plug removal tool. There we go. We can now slide the tool gently into the hole, like so, and we want to make sure that it's sitting properly on the top of the spark plug, so that feels nice and solid and it's not wobbling around. So now we can simply undo the spark plug as if it was a bolt. Twisty twisty, and eventually, with a little bit of luck, the spark plug comes out. There it is. So, how do you know what type of new spark plug to buy for your Nissan Micra K11? Well, you could go to a website that sells such things, enter your car's registration number, and then, in theory at least, you should only be shown spark plugs that are suitable. Alternatively, you could look at the owner's manual where there are recommendations, or, if you fancy it, you can look at the old spark plug, read off the make and model, and then buy the same type. This, of course, is only a good idea if you're confident that the old spark plug is the correct type, because sometimes they're not. Now, these days, a lot of people don't bother with this next step, but if you want to be thorough, when you get your new spark plug, you may want to check that the gap is correct between the central electrode and the ground electrode. A tool like this lets you measure the gap. How? Well, the edge that goes around here gets thicker and thicker, so you simply slide the spark plug onto the edge, move it along until it jams, and then take a reading from the scale here. This one's in inches, but if you prefer, you can turn the tool around and read in millimeters instead. You can then, if necessary, use this tool to make the gap bigger or smaller. To make it smaller, simply push the tool against the edge of the spark plug like so. In contrast, to make the gap larger, simply slide the spark plug into the hole like so and pry it out. Nissan says the optimum spark plug gap is between 1.1 and 1.2 millimeters. To install the new spark plug, first slide it into the spark plug socket like so, and make sure it's reasonably snug. It needs to be tight enough so that we can turn the tool over like so without this spark plug falling out. Next, whereas we're going to keep the extension bar attached to the spark plug socket, we're going to, temporarily at least, remove the ratchet. There we go. Next, slide the spark plug gently all the way to the bottom of the hole, like so, and then turn the tool clockwise to start doing it up. And we're doing this by hand initially without the ratchet to minimise the risk of cross-threading. Now that feels fine, no sign of cross-threading, so we can now add the ratchet, and we're going to carry on doing it up now very gently, just until it feels snug. Which is just about there. Now, it's important this spark plug is tightened properly. It shouldn't be too loose or too tight. Nissan's recommendation is between 20 and 29 Newton meters. And of course, we can measure that tightness via the torque wrench, which is set to 25 Newton meters. That's roughly in the middle of the recommended range. So all we need to do is grab the spark plug tool and the extension bar and remove them from the standard ratchet and transfer them to the torque wrench, just like that. So now we use the torque wrench to tighten the spark plug, and we keep going until the torque wrench makes a loud, obvious click. Not yet. Not yet. Nearly. There it was. Did you hear that? There it is again. And that click means the spark plug has been tightened to 25 Newton meters. Next, we need to reinsert the ignition coil, which just slides into place, like so. Make sure it's nice and snug. And of course, we now need to replace the bolt that holds the coil in position, and we have that over here. So that goes in there, like so. Now, Nissan says this bolt should be tightened to between 6.3 and 8.3 Newton meters, but my torque wrench doesn't go that low, so we'll just take an educated guess. It's not very tight. Just snug should be fine, which is just about there. There we go, that's fine. And of course, the entire process now needs to be repeated for the other 3 spark plugs. And of course, once all these spark plugs have been replaced, start the car and make sure it's working properly. Okay, there's an important final point to consider. The Nissan Micra in this video is a late example, so it has a coil pack. That's the black tubey thing that we removed with the 10mm socket. However, if your car's older, it may have a distributor instead. If so, you'll see different black cables running to the top of the spark plugs, and these can be removed easily too. All you have to do is give them a pull. No need for a ratchet. Anyway, that's it. But before you go, don't forget to subscribe to CarSpyTV. That makes it easier to find my other content. Can you also please do me a favour and click like on this video, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.